Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of All Knicked Up. It is April 2nd, 2025, and we have another exciting show planned for you, of course. Things have been interesting with the Knicks. Still have key guys out, but we're going to try and come in, talk about what's been going on with the team, and then kind of give a quick sneak peek into the playoffs that are starting very, very shortly. So we might be down Ty, but Joe is here. Joe's back. So welcome back, first of all.
I know, I haven't been here in a while. It's good. I missed everybody. It's good to see you.
Yes, it's been a minute since you've been here, but you are back. And it's been a we didn't do a show at all last week. None of us were available, so last week we were all out. But yeah, it's been a few weeks since we did a show together. So
yeah,
this will be fun to get back into the swing. Ty might be joining us, might not. He said he had to play it by ear tonight. He has some stuff going on, but so if he shows up, it'll be a welcome surprise. And if not, we'll hold it down for this week.
Absolutely.
So we are headed towards the playoffs. The Knicks are kind of in a I don't know. It's hard for me to say exactly what's going on. Guys, some guys are banged up still. Obviously, Brunson's still out. Payne is still out. McBride is still out. Mitch Robinson. I'm sorry, not Mitch Robinson. Karl Anthony Towns' knee is starting to bark too, which is not something I'm too happy about. But everyone is supposed to be back for the playoffs, so the Knicks should be healthy by then. But we have actually gotten some of the things we've wanted, and we've gotten some of the younger guys to step up and play, actually getting more minutes and getting opportunities to play. So let's start, though, today with the news that broke earlier today about a former New York Knick, one of the greatest scorers the NBA has ever seen. Carmelo Anthony was elected into the class of 2025 for the Naismith Hall of Fame. Now, again, this always needs to be pointed out. It is the Basketball Hall of Fame. It is not the NBA Hall of Fame. The NBA does not have its own Hall of Fame. So, Joe, are you surprised he got in on the first ballot?
No, exactly. You're not talking about an NBA Hall of Fame, and he does have an NCAA title from his time at Syracuse.
Right.
There is the Olympic accolades that he's received over his career, and just the general knowledge among anybody who knows anything about basketball that for his time, he was one of the single most unstoppable offensive players in the game. And I mean, for a long time. So I'm not surprised. He was a unique player, just a walking bucket of a player, and he has the accolades. He never really translated into the pros to get the accolades. I think he went to the Western Conference Finals once with Denver, so he really didn't have it in the postseason. But winning an NCAA title, and you couple that with a really highly productive pro career, that sounds like a recipe for inclusion to me.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised either that he got in on the first ballot. A lot of people were, which was surprising to me. The reaction I saw from just floating around social media, I was kind of like, well, again, we do understand it's not an NBA Hall of Fame. I don't think he would have gotten in. I think eventually it would have been one of those things where eventually he got in for the NBA, but I don't think it would have been a first ballot. I think you're correct. I think the 1 year in Syracuse, winning an NCAA title, leading the team there, is a big check plus on checking off the box there. The Olympic stuff you brought up, very, very important as well. He's the most decorated American Olympic basketball player, I believe, still.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think he's got the most medals, so almost gold medals. So I think that's another thing, that he could check off in his box. And let's be honest, when it comes to doing the thing that you need to do to win basketball games, which is score points,
he was elite.
He was elite, exactly. He was an elite scorer. 5-level scorer. He could outside, inside, mid-range. He had the complete package of scoring. Got better at certain things. Obviously, the 3-point shot as his career went on, he became a better 3-point shooter. Just a really, really fantastic offensive player. One of the guys I would tell young kids if they want to learn how to be a scorer,
Yeah.
get tape of Carmelo Anthony and you'll be on your way because he's just so technically gifted. He was so technically gifted putting the ball in the basket. So, and in being a Knick, yes, we've seen a lot of, I guess, of our stars not get the final, climb the final mountain and win championships for us. The fact that how they got him is going to go down in history as maybe giving up too much. Some people have said that, it's not, you could definitely make the argument that maybe they did. But I think for the time he was here, I felt like we always had a chance, like to win the game. Like we had a guy who could win a game for you. And he gave me my greatest basketball moment.
That's right. You were
Yeah,
there.
I was there for the 62-point game at Madison Square Garden. So for me personally, that was an awesome thing to see. Like just to be in the arena and see someone so great excel at their craft one night where, I mean, especially on an athletic event, to be there for something like that was fantastic. So congrats to Carmelo. Like I said, well deserved. It'll be interesting to see who shows up for that. That's kind of my next thing I want to see, who shows up for his induction, who he has present him. I think that's another thing. Is gonna have is someone gonna present him? He's gonna pick one of his boys, gonna pick maybe his son. Who knows? I don't know. But definitely a well-deserved honor for Carmelo Anthony.
Ron.
That's kind of where I was headed with that. I'm not really sure how their relationship is right now.
I'll tell you who's not going to be there. The ownership contention from the Nuggets are not going to be there.
Probably not. George Karl definitely will not be there.
No, no.
Yeah, no. Don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see exactly who shows up for that. Huh?
Phil Jackson won't be there.
Yeah, pretty sure Phil won't be there either. Not sure Jeremy Lin will be there. I don't know, I'm just going off of, things that we heard and speculation that might have been going on when he was here. So we'll see how it goes. But again, well deserved. Congratulations to Melo. And it's cool to have another Knick or a guy who played for the Knicks be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think from a Knick fan perspective.
And I think
go ahead.
I think if you asked Melo of all the teams he played for, he would consider himself to be a Knick, even though that's not where he got drafted or started out or anything like that. I think he would consider himself to be a Knick.
Well, if you're looking at where he chose to play, then yes, because he made it possible for him to get traded here.
Yeah.
So I think yes, if desire of where he wanted to play, yes, I think that would be the case. But we'll see. I mean, Denver drafted him. He did have most of his better years for the Nuggets, I'll say. He had some very, very good ones here for the Knicks, but I'd say he had his best years probably there. So it's interesting. It's an interesting conversation to have. But as you said, if you asked him, I think he'd probably say that. So
I think so.
Yeah. All right. So let's stick with the current Knicks. Let's go to the current Knicks now, who are literally limping into the playoffs, if you want to look at it that way, because they have a bunch of guys who are on the shelf. We know about Brunson. We know about Campaign. We know about Deuce McBride. So while they have kind of been out, other players have had a chance to step up. And one of them, I'm going to have to give, swallow a little pride or just, admit he's a little more than I thought he was, and I'm talking about OG Anunoby, who has been an offensive juggernaut, to quote Clyde,
Yes.
lately. Um, and it hasn't just been, it hasn't just been shooting threes, attacking the basket a little bit more. I feel like he's been showing a little bit more of what he's capable of, which is always great to see. Rebounding a little better too, I've noticed. I think he's rebounding the ball a little bit better than he was before. So my question for you is, will this continue when everyone comes back? Will this continue?
Not to the pace right now because the need isn't there. We've needed our secondary scorers on the wings to step up and provide what was missing from our offense. Carl Anthony Towns is obviously not 100%, or he will miss some time right now. You don't have Jalen Brunson. This is the good thing about the composition of the team is you have people that can step up and get you 20 plus every night. I don't think this offensive output will continue once Brunson and Towns are quite in the fold, and I think the offense will tighten up a little bit in the playoffs. I don't think you'll see the same shot distribution that you're seeing during the season. However, I think having, and I've said this before in this show, engaging him offensively will bring the best out of him, getting him his touches. Fortunately, he's not somebody that needs the ball. He's not somebody who's initiating your offense. But I think with both the wings, the more involved they are in the offense, the harder it is to stop them, the more engaged that they are into the game. So he's not going to be shooting 22 shots in a game. That's not going to happen. Unless, again, we have injuries. If Towns goes down, something along those lines, he's having difficulties, you will see them rise up and kind of take more of that load. But I think what's more predictable is that probably you're going to see the distribution of shots tighten up a little bit. I think the offense is going to go through Towns. I think the offense is going to go through Brunson. And you're going to have these supplementary characters kind of floating around in there. But I have to give compliments to OG Anunoby and what he has done. I mean, the guy's averaging 18 a game, almost 50% from the field, about 36 from three. He's never going to be a good rebounder, but the defense has been there. He is not the one-dimensional player that he has often been labeled. Again, it's debatable whether or not he was worth the contract, and I know that's always in the back of your mind. But again, he's probably having his best season as a pro this year.
Yeah, that part is definitely true. He is having his best statistical season as a professional athlete. He's playing. Yes, I mean, he has picked up the slack. We were waiting for somebody to do it. Bridges has as well. Bridges is up his offensive output as well. But I expect that from him because I know he's capable of it. I've seen him do it before. With OG, we saw some flashes of it. Obviously, he had the 40-point game against Denver, whatever that, back in, when was that, November? I know he had that kind of a performance that day. So we've seen it before, but this has been more on a more consistent basis. It's possible he was battling something too. We know he gets nicked up, but that's another thing we could say about him. He's played 69 games thus far.
Yeah.
And that's something that he normally doesn't do. He's averaged 50 games a season since he's been a professional. So it's nice to see he's going to blow that out of the water, knock on wood, because there's still time for guys to get injured. And we don't want that. But yeah, he's been great recently. I mean, there's nothing you could say. Last 5 games, he's been fantastic. Last 10, he's averaging 24 points, 5 rebounds, 2 steals. He's shooting 50% from the field, 37 from 3. I mean, you can't ask for more than that. So
if you could also factor in the elite defense, that is a hell of a number 3 on your team.
Well, yeah. Like, so I mean, that's why I brought up the steals, 2.2. That's fantastic. And yeah, if you watch the games, you see how he gets those steals. He just harasses guys into making mistakes. It's a very cool thing to see when, like I said, you see a guy who's great at something really being great at it, and that's what he's been. We all know how great a defender he is. He's been playing that way. So it's been awesome. It's been an awesome thing to see. And I'm hoping it continues. I'm hoping we keep seeing it. Again, he's got a huge contract. I would not have paid him that much money. We all know, I've said it numerous times. I think he's overpaid, but if he gives this production, then he's not. I mean, it's that easy. Easy to say. If he gives this kind of offensive production, overall production, he's earning every bit.
He's going to wind up in an all defensive team this year.
I hope so. He's never I never hear him mentioned for defensive player of the year, which I think is crazy. If you watch him on a nightly basis, he clearly should be in that conversation, but he hasn't been. No. So it's kind of been an interesting thing to watch. And like I said, a guy who's elevating his level of play when the team needs him, and showing, as you said, that he's more than just the one-dimensional player that he's been labeled to be.
I will say something about his offensive shot selection. I mean, obviously the field goal percentage is there, but he's taking shots that are within himself. A lot of players that are looking to exert themselves offensively sometimes do not do that. He's playing within himself offensively while also exerting himself, offensively, which is great.
Yeah, that's true. And I wonder if it's because of this. So, yes. Obviously,
I think we're going to draw in a lot of viewers on this topic. I think the waves are out there, and the Kolick fan club is going to get pulled into the show right now.
I think so, because I mean, it's kind of amazing that he's come in and he's starting to get playing time. Not because Tibbs wanted to play him, but because he had no choice. The fact that still he's starting DeLon Wright over him to me is crazy. But in his defense, Wright has played well. He's done his job. He hasn't been terrible. So yeah. So he's been well, but the team looks, especially on offense, looks so much more fluid with Tyler Kolick on the floor. And I think that's what we all were talking about during the season. Like, once Brunson goes down, he is the best creator of offense that they have. Like, yeah. I don't think that's
the best creator of offense we've had in a very, very, very long time.
Yeah. Like, he doesn't look to score, and I know he can, and I think that's the part of his game that he's still figuring out. But he can set guys up. He finds guys. The ball's constantly moving. He can break his man down, maybe not to score, but he can break down to create for others. He's been a revelation, and I don't think, like, I was clamoring for him to play, and we all were clamoring for the young guys to play. Like I said, I watched him in college, so I knew he was capable of this, but I keep going back to the one thing I said about him from the beginning. The moment's is not too big for him. He gets in the game. He plays under control. He doesn't look like he's forcing anything. He just plays the game. He plays within himself, as you just said about OG. He plays within himself, and he's doing his job, setting up the offensive players who can score. He's playing point guard, and it's really, really cool to see. And is there anything that he's shown you, Joe, that you didn't know about him before?
No. You're looking at a player that does have a potentially elite skill.
Yeah.
It's there, and you can see it, and you can see how the offense moves with it. My assessment of him, honestly, is his shot will come with more minutes. I go back to something that Grimes said a while ago. He always felt like he couldn't get in rhythm shooting because he felt if he missed a few, he was getting pulled. And I think that that's something that's very, very true of these fringe bench guys. All he has to do is get in the rhythm of the game, and his shot will fall. We know he can shoot. We know the kid can shoot. However, they should not play him in the playoffs. He will get exposed defensively in the playoffs.
Well, I don't think they're planning on it, to be honest. Unless they have to, again, unless they're forced and they have to play a backup.
He needs more foot speed, and he needs to get in the gym
So,
and lift some more weights because
well,
defensively he's suspect.
I don't think it's bad enough to completely disqualify him. I do think it's something he needs to work on. You're correct. But I don't think it's bad enough to disqualify him if, like I said, if they don't have anyone else. So if guys are hurt, if like Payne is still hurt, or or Wright gets hurt or something, and they have to play him, I wouldn't be hesitant to put him in the game.
No, but that's an option thing. If you have no other options, my point is in the playoffs, particularly when you're game planning in the playoffs, you look for the weakness in the fence and you expose it, and that will be Tyler Kolek.
Probably, that's a fair assessment.
I like his potential though.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like we're seeing it still should bother everyone that it took this long and this kind of a thing to happen for him to get on the court in any kind of consistent way. I think that's my problem with it, because we've been crying for a bench all year, and I still think that not the injuries, but the wear and tear is going to catch up with them. Like I still do not think the Knicks are a lock to win their first round matchup, whoever they play. They should be favored, but I think whether they play Detroit, whether they play Indiana, whoever they wind up playing in the first, Milwaukee, I think any of those teams can beat them. And I'm not saying they will, but I think the wear and tear, like I said, on the guys who have been playing the bulk of the minutes, I think this is the time it's going to show up. We're already seeing like Towns has been banged up. We know second half of the season. He didn't play last night. He's supposed to play tonight against the Cavs, which, by the way, is going to be an interesting basketball game because I don't think either team has anything really to gain at this point. So how many minutes are we going to play? Like, what are we going to see there? I don't know who's playing for Cleveland, if anybody is out, or I'm not even sure. But thank you, Craig. Craig is being his positive self, as we see, saying the Knicks are going to get smoked, which could happen. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. But yeah, I would agree with you that he's probably not going to play in the playoffs at all.
But I would pivot also back to something you've been saying and Ty's been saying and I've been saying. He would have been more prepared if they'd given him time during the season to develop. You can't just run up and get this kid warm now, 70 games into the season, 72 games into the season, 75 games into the season. But again, it's you never know when you're going to need somebody, especially with a coach that plays his players like he plays his players. We're not surprised we're seeing breakdown.
I know.
I heard something interesting, not to pivot too far off of this, but it had to do with Tibbs and distributing minutes. And I was watching a podcast trying to get back up to speed with a lot of things because I've been swallowed up in work, and that's been like a big driving force. And somebody brought up something really interesting that I've thought before. And you have these injuries where it's like, well, he turned an ankle, or he planted wrong, or he fell wrong, or something like that. And that has nothing to do with the amount of minutes that he played. And the idea was that is not the case, that tired players are not going to land well, they're not going to jump well, they're not going to pivot well, and that this is going to lead to these type of injuries. So, when you're assessing the situation and say, well, it's just a turned ankle with Brunson, wasn't it an exhausted player that turned his ankle because he planted it poorly? So I just thought that was really interesting because we're rolling into the playoffs right now with injuries.
Again.
And I think there are certain parties that would turn around and say, well, that couldn't be helped, and that's just a usage injury or this or that. But in truth, Are some of these injuries contributed to a coach who's not developing and playing a bench? So it's just something we've talked about this year, and the person that I was listening to put it far more succinctly than I did. But it was just interesting. We're rolling in banged up again. We're
Yeah.
not fresh. We're not at our best, and we have an underdeveloped bench.
Right. I mean, I keep thinking back to last year too, how great Alec Burks turned out to be in the Pacer series, but it took him a while to get going because he wasn't playing
Yeah,
regular minutes.
yeah,
So if you're forced to play these guys and they haven't played in real live action games and they're only practicing, well, everyone knows it's the oldest line in the book. If you talk to any player, like their practice to a game is like night and day. Like the
yeah. It's
intensity is completely different. And then the playoffs,
bucket
it
head
gets ratcheted up
practice.
even another notch. So it is interesting. That's he's the first player that came to mind when you said that because I was thinking, oh, last year, yeah. Like I remember in the first round, we were like, oh, please don't play him. And then he wound up
Mhm.
being so great against the Pacers. Um, so yeah, it's another issue again. Every year under this coach, we've been injured going into the playoffs. There's been a key guy hurt. This year it happens to be Brunson. Or was it Randall the last few times? And Brunson's supposed to be back. He's saying the right things. He
And
says he wants to try and come back early.
and
Um,
Towns.
yeah, and Towns hasn't been like hurt with a specific injury, but little things, right? Lingering things. His knees barking. He's been playing, but you can tell he's not the same as he was the first half of the season where he
Oh, of course
literally
not.
looked like an MVP candidate.
He
He
did.
really did. So to your point, and to what you said, it is an interesting conversation to have. And it's also because, you say the more minutes you play, obviously, the more exposed you are to injury too, right? So if you're playing 40 minutes in a game where your team is up 20 points at one time and you're still playing your starters through these, towards the end of the game, those are maybe 2 or 3 more minutes where they're exposed to being hurt, seriously hurt. So it's all of these things kind of go into play when when you think about why this happens, and it's been every year under this coach.
Yeah.
So it's a very fair argument to have. I know we pick on him a lot. I keep saying I'm a lot more harsh in the chat. I keep saying that I really really don't want him back next year no matter what happens. I
I don't
think it's
think
time
that's
to
going to
move on.
happen.
Huh?
I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, Taylor Jenkins just got fired for doing nothing when the Knicks have the same record and they're in a better conference. So
Yep.
I'm just pointing out that it does happen.
He just got signed to an extension, though. I think the extension begins next year, doesn't it?
It's just 2 years though. It wasn't a super long
Mm,
one.
I know.
Um,
Craig brought up something really interesting here about Towns shouldn't be playing tonight.
he's playing.
We got 7 games left and are up by 4 for the 3 seed. Should we just be sitting him?
Well, yeah, I mean, I actually had a banner for this, so I'll bring it up. But yeah, I do kind of think it's time to shut him down for now.
Yeah.
Um, there's a couple
He's
of
not
games
making
that
up 4 games and us in 7 games, especially when we're playing. We got Brooklyn, Atlanta, Cleveland. Some of this stuff is winnable games even without Towns.
right, that's what I mean. I think they can win these games without him. Especially with the way that OG and Bridges have been playing, leaning on them. Hart, obviously, he's the guy that he's the player that I pull my hair out watching, but we know what he brings.
Yeah.
Mitch is working his way back, so he's getting back into the swing. He had 14 and 14 last night. Fantastic
20
game.
minutes.
Yeah, in 20 minutes. So these guys should be able to beat some of the teams they have upcoming on their schedule.
Yeah.
And yeah, they shouldn't need either him or Brunson. I think one of them, they play Boston next Tuesday. Which I think is something that people are circling now, like, oh, how are they going to play? But for me, I'm like, whatever. You can lose again. That's fine. I don't care. Um, so yeah, we have Cleveland, Atlanta, Phoenix, Boston, Detroit, then Cleveland again, and then Brooklyn.
Right.
So those are the last 7 games, or yes, 7 games that we have. So yeah, I'm with you. I would sit him.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why you should play him at this point. Get healthy for the playoffs. I think their magic number is 3 to clinch the 3 seed.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if they could beat Atlanta, if they could beat Phoenix, that game's at home. Maybe not even clinch it until the last game against Brooklyn. I don't know. Or depending who's behind them again. Is it Indiana?
Indiana.
Right. So Indiana, yeah, they need to. Who are they playing? I mean, they're likely to lose a game or 2.
All right, let me pull up the schedule.
So I definitely think it's. They've been playing remarkable basketball just to be.
They're a good team.
Yeah.
They're a very good team. So
They
Indiana
started out.
has Charlotte, Utah, Denver, Washington, Cleveland, Orlando, and Cleveland.
That's
So
as bad as that. That's worse than ours, I think.
Well, Orlando's tough, Cleveland twice, and Denver. Washington, Utah, and Charlotte are not exactly world beaters. But I can't see them winning out. And
That's true. Yeah.
if we won 3 games, and even if they won out, I think we would still get the push on that.
So, yeah, I don't think. I mean, yeah, the Denver game's in Denver, and they're still playing for position, I think. Yeah, I think we probably do have it locked up.
I would think so.
So, yeah,
But
Denver is still playing for positioning. So, yeah.
But even if you were, well, let's think about this. What is on the line with the 3rd seed? The 3rd seed would be right now playing
Milwaukee,
the Bucks,
yeah.
and the other side of that is playing Detroit. So
Yep.
obviously, Dame is out, but you don't know how long he's going to be out. He's on blood thinners right now. He had a DVT.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say Dame comes back. Which team do you want to face? What's really the relevance of the 3 spot even?
I mean, the quick way to look at it is to say, well, Milwaukee has Giannis,
Mm-hmm.
and that always makes them dangerous, right? He's one of the best players in the league, so that always makes them dangerous. Detroit, though, has, what they don't know, right? They're young, never been in the playoffs, this specific team. So they don't know how good they are or they aren't, I think, especially when it comes to the playoffs. So I could see benefits playing either team. I just would rather not play Giannis.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Craig brings up a good point. Detroit's dangerous.
Yeah. If there's no Dame, play Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But Detroit, again, Detroit is a little bit scary. They're deep, too. They're pretty deep, that team. And it's funny, they got good right when we traded away that draft pick, that protected draft pick. So go figure. No, Detroit's interesting. They're an interesting team.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's not going to win it, but you can make a case for Cade Cunningham as an MVP candidate as well.
No, he's been super important to that team. Yeah,
he's averaging 26-9, 6. Just shooting really good percentage, 46% from the floor. I mean, yeah, he's fantastic. So they're a dangerous team.
It's amazing how quickly they turned that around. Was that just coaching?
It was also health. Like Cunningham has been banged up in his career. This year he's played 66 games thus far. And, when your best player is not there, especially for them, you suffer a little bit. So But yeah, I mean, it's partially coaching for sure, but it's definitely health, I think. But yeah, they're young. They have athletes. Like they're not. I wouldn't say they're totally athletic because they have some guys I like to call, I don't say earthbound, but for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And like their best player, Cunningham, is not. He's not a supreme athlete, but they have Oscar Thompson. Obviously, they have the psycho Isaiah Stewart. Um, they're a pretty tough matchup. So
It's going to be interesting to see who they don't extend, because they have Duran that's going to be coming up for extension. They're going to have Ivy that's going to be coming up for extension, and then a year after that, I think, is Thompson. So again, with the new, financial realities of the NBA, not all of those guys are getting signed. It'll be interesting to see who they part with and who their real core is. I would say probably
yeah.
Duran.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's to me, he's kind of a guy you don't want to let go.
No.
Averages 12 and 10. He's kind of their version of Mitch.
He's not a great defender, though.
No, he's not. That's true. But he's a presence. He's a big guy. Like I said, good rebounder. It's weird. He only plays 26 minutes a night.
That's because they also have Isaiah Stewart at that position, and
they have psychotic. Yes. So yeah, so they kind of
New York. Isaiah Stewart. He's from my neck of the woods.
Are you trying to say something?
Just a little
trying to tell us something. Yeah. They also have Tobias Harris, who is from Long Island. So
yeah. Where was he? Where was he from? Was he in one of the Hills high schools? Half Hollow Hills?
Did he play? He went to St. Mary's. He went to St. Mary's in Manhasset, I thought. So, yeah. They're a tough team. Craig's right. I would not want to play them either. Like, I don't see a good matchup. And again, the way I feel about the Knicks right now is anyone can beat them. So hopefully when we're healthy and everyone's back, they hit their stride and they go on a run. But
I don't see them losing to either one of those teams in 7 games. With Brunson back, I don't see that happening.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't say one way or another what's going to happen there. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's an interesting time of year. Always going into the playoffs, and again, like you said, we're all banged up yet again. So we're gonna have a team playing itself into shape in round 1. That scares me. So we will see how that plays out. All right. Well, I think we wouldn't have put a bow on this one early. The Knicks game has started, or it's going to tip off in a couple minutes, so we won't keep you guys. But we will be back at least next week. Mm-hmm. I will be gone the following 2 weeks because I'll be in Japan. So I'm looking forward to that.
World traveler.
Yeah.
Love
it. Yep. I'm excited. I'm nervous of all those things, but
no, it just took that one trip and the dam broke.
Huh?
It took that one trip when you went to England and then the dam broke.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've always wanted to travel. I'm just in a position to do it now. So, yeah, I went to England. Yep. Then I did Germany. Then I did
Iceland. Now Japan.
Yeah. Now Japan. I'm planning on going back to England, I think, this summer. Do a couple things there. A couple more things that I missed the first time.
Well, Craig says he's going to be in Italy, France, and Spain in 2 weeks. Craig, have a wonderful time, buddy.
Are you really? Are you just saying that? Or you really, you really mean Italy, France, and Spain? Because I'm jealous. Those are 3 places I haven't been yet. They're on my list.
I've been to all
But
3, but haven't seen enough of them.
Yep. So Italy's on the list. France is on the list. That's awesome, Craig. Good for you.
Happy anniversary, Craig.
Yeah, happy early anniversary. I can't believe it's 10 years. I remember when you got married. Oh God, getting old. Getting old. Well, yeah. All right, so let's shut this one down. So, Joe, anything you want to tell the people?
No, just it's great to be back and go New York, go New York, go. Love to see them beat Cleveland tonight.
I'm gonna act like you didn't say the "Go New York, New York, go New York, go New York, go" thing because I hate that song. And and yes,
I'm a cheese ball.
nice
What can you say?
yeah. It was nice to be back this week, Joe. Nice having you back. Ty, we'll
Good to
see
be
you
back.
next week, hopefully. Or 3 of us back together so we can at least have that one show before I go away and
Yeah.
talk the playoffs. 3 of us together. We'll do a heavy playoff show next week, I'm sure. Yeah. Thanks again, guys, for all the support. Everyone who tuned in, we would not do this without you. So thank you for all the support. And for Joe, I'm Eric. You're watching All Knicked Up. See you next time.